But here at home, the Liberals' electric vehicle mandate continues to face backlash. Yesterday, Alberta's Environment Minister released a video calling it a failed policy.
Just like the carbon tax, it's all pain and no gain. It will drive up costs. It will limit how far you can travel. It will make winter driving unreliable and potentially unsafe, and it will leave Canadians stuck.
For more on this, Alberta's Minister of Environment, Rebecca Schulz, joins me now. Nice to see you, Minister. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me.
So you say Alberta will not accept the federal electric vehicle mandate. Do you want to see it scrapped entirely, delayed, or just rejigged? What's your position on this?
You know, we think it needs to be scrapped entirely. The fact that the federal government's mandate says that 20% of all vehicles sold and purchased are going to be EVs by next year and 100% by 2035 is completely unrealistic. It is totally devoid of reality. First of all, Canadians are not choosing electric vehicles. The number in a percentage terms of electric vehicles that people are buying this year over last, June over June, 35% decrease in people making that choice. I think a lot of that probably has to do with economics, which of course is a top priority for Canadians across the country, but then also from a cost and a grid perspective. I mean, for the grid to be able to sustain this with all of the charging equipment needed to actually roll this out by 2035 would cost tens of billions of dollars. And of course, we have a Canadian winter. So not having the charging capacity, putting our electricity grids at risk for something that is going to cost Canadians more and potentially leave you stranded in a Canadian winter. I really just don't think that that is a choice Canadians want to make right now. They, voted for this new federal government. I would say it's, the same government, but new leadership, new prime minister, largely because they ran on a campaign of growing our economy, and policies like this do the exact opposite.
What's the main reason for your opposition, though? Is it all those practical considerations that you just talked about, or is it an ideological opposition to this sort of policy altogether?
It's a common sense concern of Canadians. Right now, affordability and economy are the top issues for Canadians. It certainly was the top issue of discussion during the last federal election. I think Canadians thought they were going to get a lot more common sense out of this government, but they're not. We have one minister, industry minister, Melanie Joly, saying that this government is not going to go down the path of policies that don't make sense. And then yet you have the federal environment minister saying that they're not going to make any changes. They're going to keep this EV mandate in place. It doesn't make any sense. I can tell you right now, I'm in Fort McMurray calling in a lot of very important industry for the Canadian economy up here. I've only been here for a couple hours, but I'll tell you, I haven't seen one electric vehicle.
Yeah, you probably won't see them there. Is that one reason why you're concerned, though, that if there is widespread adoption of these vehicles, it could drive down the price of oil? It could be bad for Alberta's economy. It could be bad for the budget here in Ottawa, too. Is that what is driving your opposition, this fear that if there is an EV in every driveway, gas prices might go down?
Our major concern is around affordability, the strength of our economy, and having a government held accountable. They ran on a platform of economics and affordability and taking care of Canadians and abandoning some of the radical policies that hurt our economy and cost Canadians more. I mean, when it comes to our energy industry, I'm not concerned. Energy, especially oil, being up here in the backyard of the oil sands, is used not only to fuel vehicles, but to create hundreds of products that we use in our day-to-day lives. Demand for energy is not going down. But what we are seeing is concern about these policies. I mean, the top 5 vehicle makers, Ford, General Motors, Toyota, Stellantis, coming out and saying that they are opposed to this EV mandate, that it is going to drive jobs out of Canada. You saw 48 mayors in towns and cities across Ontario saying that this is going to be a harmful policy, and yet you have a federal government who's digging in their heels in unrealistic policy. I don't think that's what Canadians voted for in the last federal election.
You mentioned the sales decrease, and it's real, and we know a lot of manufacturers are pulling back, as you say. I mean, Ford was supposed to retool Oakville and the plant there to produce electric vehicles. They've abandoned that. They're making pickup trucks there instead, because that's where they see the money going. But we really saw a sales dip after the feds pulled back on their incentives. Do you think that maybe if we just make those incentives better, more folks will buy EVs? Maybe that's a solution. Ottawa should just cut bigger checks to folks that buy these EVs. That might fix the problem.
You know, those incentives are still paid for through tax dollars. And I think Canadians are smarter than that. They realize that's their own money then being reinvested into a rebate program. But the grid issues still remain. We don't have enough charging stations. And right now, the federal government does not have the balance sheet to spend tens of millions of dollars to build up that infrastructure in just a few short years. So I think this is an area where the federal government could show common sense. It's one of a number of areas that we have pointed out that the federal government needs to step back when it comes to those radical environmental policies that don't make sense for Canadians. And I just think, you know, when we talk about the Canadian economy, again, being a top of mind issue for Canadians, I think the biggest impediment right now to growing the Canadian economy is in fact our federal government. I mean, just think about, you know, whether that be from a competitiveness perspective, from a productivity perspective, how much better off we would be as Canadians, as provinces, our major industries, if we weren't spending all of this time, effort, and money in fighting absolutely ridiculous, out of touch, job-killing policies from this federal government. So hopefully we've heard from this new prime minister that he's going to take a different approach. We're a number of months in and we haven't seen them walk back on any of it or show any common sense or show any indication that they're going to prioritize the well-being of Canadians or our economy. And this would just be one simple way to show Canadians, look, we're listening. We know that this mandate would cost you more, would leave you stranded in the middle of a Canadian winter because we don't have the infrastructure to keep these EVs on the road.
I hear you about the winter thing and how the batteries don't necessarily always hold up as well in the cold weather, but Norway is not exactly Palm Springs, California, and we looked at some of their data from last month, and 9 in 10 new cars sold in that Scandinavian Nordic country are electric vehicles. So, I mean, how are they able to do it? Why do you think that it's working in Norway, but we can't make that sort of transition here in Canada? It obviously can be done in other cold weather jurisdictions.
Here's what I would say. I mean, you may see that in Norway. Here in Canada, you're still seeing 9 out of 10 vehicles sold and purchased being regular gas and diesel cars and trucks. And so, again, I would just say we saw a prime minister saying he was going to do things differently. He was going to prioritize our economy. But what we continue to see is this radical activist environmental agenda that is opposed by, again, it's not just the Alberta government. This is opposed by Canadians. It is opposed by the big 5 automakers who say that this is going to significantly damage that industry in Ontario and in Canada. And again, 48 mayors saying that this is the wrong policy. And so, you know, I would just say what we're asking for from this federal government is, you know, put your money for your mouth where your mouth is. We've been waiting for a number of months already to see that common sense that they campaigned on. But this would just be one simple policy that they could step away from. You know, I would just say, though, that's only one of our asks. Obviously, we have a number of requests from the federal government in terms of policies that don't seem to make any sense, don't improve our competitiveness or our economic relationships and trade relationships, especially in this period of uncertainty.
I take your point, but Mark Carney has rolled over on some of these environmental policies. I mean, look at C5, essentially absolving any future project that is put on the national projects list from some of the more strenuous environmental laws that Justin Trudeau put forward. He has shown a willingness to change and step away from the Liberal playbook. What makes you think that won't happen here? And if they don't drop this mandate, what is Alberta prepared to do? Is legal action a possibility?
I would say we'll see. All we've heard is rhetoric and not a lot of action. I can tell you, I think people were willing to give the Prime Minister the benefit of the doubt, and there was some cautious optimism in some of the words that were spoken following the election. But the truth of the matter is Canadians are still waiting to see action. I mean, look, every Albertan could go out and purchase an electric vehicle, and it would not make a dent in overall emissions. What actually reduces global emissions is us being able to produce more Canadian gas, displace coal-fired generation and less responsibly produced energy in other areas of the world. Oftentimes we talk about China's, Southeast Asia. There are countries around the world looking for our energy, both from an energy security perspective, from an affordability perspective, but also an environmental perspective, because we know that that would actually reduce global emissions. And so, you say Bill C5, I think, that's one way you can make a workaround around your challenging anti-investment legislation. I can tell you that in the last week, we were meeting with folks, industry leaders, and what they were saying around investment certainty is that despite how uncertain things are in the United States, investors are seeing a way around that. However, that investment is still not coming back into Canada. So I think, it's not just provinces that are looking for this federal government to show some action. It's Canadians and it's the investment community.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you so much to Alberta's Minister of the Environment, Rebecca Schulz. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.